What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Mike Roach podcast, brought to you by the one and only, where is it? OXP Media and the Battle Canada series. Now, I got a very special guest in the building right now. Very special guest. A lot of you may already know who this is, especially in Canada. Okay, Kris Douse, former ex-pro hooper and the owner of Probody Coaching. Kris, what is going on, my friend?
I'm happy, man. I'm just happy to be here and finally getting on your podcast and ready to chat it up.
Now, listen, for everybody who's probably about my age and maybe a little bit older and a little bit younger, all right, if you were growing up in Brampton and around the Peel area, they probably already know who you are. So tell us a little bit about yourself before you ended up leaving Canada.
All right. Well, where to start? Okay. I've always been like pretty much involved in the game of basketball and had aspirations of, propelling in my career. And I started off really trying to build on this grand vision, trying to take it a step further and hopefully get like a college scholarship and get to America when I was about in 9th or 10th grade at Cornell. So I was in Brampton at the time. And then, wow, the journey was crazy because I went from there and then I ended up getting an opportunity at West Hill under Wayne Dawkins, who, he was a great mentor and a great teacher of the game. He taught me pretty much the fundamentals of the game, just locking me in the gym and saying, Kris, you're a big guy, you can dribble. He just put up the basket and say, look, you're spending like an hour and a half just dribbling. That's all I want you to do. And he really helped develop my core as a player. And from there, I went to Emory. So I went to Emory with Bob Mado over there. And then I was really cool with Phil Dixon, who kind of guided me to make that decision moving forward, as he was actually training. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that is that I was training like personally with Phil. I pretty much searched him out and I basically begged him because this is the time when he was like on the battleground scene, and I was actually getting more history in Toronto basketball in terms of like the pioneers, right?
Yeah.
So I saw him doing the battleground thing. And I'm like, who is this guy, Phil Dixon? Like I heard of him, but it's kind of like his time was before, and now you're hearing more of like the Denham Browns or like the Javon Shepherds, who I was playing with at the time. And we connected, and then he started training me. And yeah, he was just like, there's, connecting me with Bob Mado, and this might be a good path for you in terms of where you're trying to go. And then I ended up building on my experience with Bob, and it was really great over there as well. And yeah, that's pretty much my career in Canada. And from that experience, also with Grassroots Canada, shout out to Ro Russell, and also Phase 1 with Dawkins as well. And I really got a whole lot of opportunities with them on the AAU scene. Yeah, I went from pretty much unknown, even in Canada, and especially in America, to being a top recruit in Canada and ranked nationally in America. And that's when the journey kind of took me to going to America for high school and going down that road.
All right, so now my cousin Ty, and that's where I first learned about you. He used to talk about you every day, like religiously, how amazing of a player you are. And you did go to the States, and you did play for, I believe, Nebraska. You played Delaware State as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play for anywhere else over there?
Yeah, I did my because I got injured my last year in Delaware State, and then I decided to go to a smaller school, NAIA school. So it was like crazy. Like pretty much my whole career has been based on my ambitions always fueled me, whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision. The intent was always good to just try to find a way to just kind of get where I'm trying to go, And along the road, there was a lot of bumps, there was a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, but it definitely led me down this road to just trailblaze and just be like a globetrotter all over the place.
So tell me about your experience. How was your experience playing in Canada compared to moving on to the States?
Good question. when I was in Canada, I came up in a time when the Canadian system, we weren't getting a whole lot of exposure. It was like if you knew about Toronto, you kind of knew that, okay, we got a few hoopers. Like you get to America and it'd be like, oh yeah, we played against, Devin Brown or, Shane Morrison or these guys. And it's like, it was like a quiet, people knew about us quietly, but it wasn't really on the scene like how it is today where you got, guys are going Division I, left, right, and center. Some of them are even taking their career even further and getting to the NBA. Where at my time, especially coming out of Brampton, I remember being in the 9th grade, and I wasn't that good, but I had supreme confidence, and I really was like a workhorse. And I would say I'm going Division I, and it was like taboo back. It's like D1. Who goes D1? And it's funny because at Leger, there was a guy named Michael Meeks who was on the Canadian national team and stuff like this, and he came through the Conor Leger channels, and it really inspired me. I was just kind of like, well, if he could do it, yeah, he got 3 inches on me, but still, if he did it from Brampton, why not try? I could do it too. I got to have some sort of dream, right? So I just pretty much followed the steps that were placed in front of me and just took it from there. And then, like I said, in America, come from Toronto, I went to North Carolina first time, right? So I'm in the deep South. They all thought I came from an igloo, They're like, Toronto, like, you live in an igloo. I'm like, dude, like,
Are they serious? Like,
it was serious, I mean, Toronto wasn't known how it is today. Toronto's known, like, oh, you come from the 6. You got Drake and all those guys pumping it out and giving us a whole lot of media. Back then, they really thought like we live in igloos and we go ice fishing. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was definitely it was groundbreaking to get into that market and be able to have some sort of impact to where it kind of grasps to me, getting opportunities to play Division I basketball.
So now you leave the U.S. You're in Europe currently right now. How did you end up there? What was that journey like for you?
So like all aspiring basketball players, we all want to make it to the NBA, and that was always like my dream. That was my goal. But when you fall short, if you still want to take that career overseas, if you still want to take that career in basketball, then the next best thing is to go overseas, right? So I ended up my first year in Europe playing in Liverpool. And yeah, I had an agent, pretty much shot me around. I ended up getting a decent deal in Liverpool. And then from there, looking at it now, it's like 9-10 years over here, just pretty much doing the basketball thing. And now branching out into my own establishment to where, I'm pretty much teaching people how to train like the gladiators, taking them out of the Coliseum. I'm saying, look, there's a career outside of the sport, but you can still do what you love. Right? So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So where do you want to take now you're the owner of Probody Coaching, right? Tell us exactly what that is and why you started that business.
All right, so basically what we do, we're a personal training service, and we pretty much teach people how to train like an athlete, as well as develop current athletes to take themselves to the next level. In Europe, the style of training is much different than, say, the North American way of doing things, from even the intensity of the coaching, the culture, the environment, the way that it is in North America. It's really, it's one of those things where it's like, pressure is either going to break you or it's going to make you. So I've pretty much taken the same approach here, kind of refined it, more positive reinforcement.
Do you think one is better than the other, or do they both kind of work in their own way?
I think as an athlete, you're built to be able to deal with, unimaginable circumstances. And, when you got a coach on the sidelines and you got, like say in Nebraska, you got 10,000 people yelling, screaming, some love you, some hate you. You learn how to deal with circumstances on a whole nother level, right? It's people never really put that into account, but as an athlete, like, it's so much character building. Like that whole journey, that whole pressure of everyone always being able to have an opinion, whether good or bad, and being in that atmosphere where you're kind of like the center of attention for either or, whether it's good or bad, is really character building. And I think that for an athlete, they kind of need that push to go to the next level. That's why it's so intense. They're trying to motivate you, whether that's, positively or negatively. It all depends on how you take constructive criticism. But most people, when you're dealing with people, you have to know how to gauge the difference between how to get your message across, say, opposed to like a college coach, and deliver the same message, but more in a refined sort of way where people can feel good about it. So it's the same goal, but it's just kind of a different recipe of getting to the same, like making the same accomplishments, you know?
Like, what are some of the things now when not everybody is just built to be like a pro athlete, and that's what you are. So when you were playing pro for these years, right? Like, what are some of the main things that you took away? What are some of the things that you learned?
I mean, it's a good question. Being overseas, you know, it's a different world. You know, most people that live in North America, people go from Toronto to Florida. That is vacation, you know. People usually don't go from Toronto and say, I'm going to Greece, you know, or maybe they might go to their homeland. When you live out here, I've been out here for, like I said, 9, 10 years now. It cultures you, right? So you have a different perspective of the world. And coming from Toronto is definitely a great base because it's like the most diverse city in the world, right? So your neighbors are, you know, Black, white, Chinese, Indian, like you are used to being in a multicultural environment, like pretty much the biggest multicultural environment in the world. So when you go out to Europe and you're like, someone says, hey, you know, I'm from Germany, you might have thought, I knew someone in Toronto that had German region. Maybe we sat down and had dinner. Maybe I knew their family. So kind of are connecting the pieces based on what you know, but also you also understand the people back home better because you're in their homeland. Like their parents are from here, and now you got an understanding of the culture. So it really makes you a much more well-rounded individual. I would take anything from it. Just that character development is just it's huge. You can't buy that. You know, you got to really experience it.
So what do you think the toughest part is about being a pro trainer? Because I mean, you really gotta get in people's ass if you're a trainer, man. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing at the beginning was I'm very passionate, and I try to show that in my work to let people know like I care. So I'm very focused on every fine detail, and my way of doing it is, like I said, it's high intensity, but it's positive. So it's one of those things where it's like you can swear in a class in a positive way, which sounds so unreal, but it's like you can say something in a class that's super motivating, but the words that you might use might be a little bit different than say what they're used to in an office space. But that's what I'm used to as being coached by high level coaches. Like the profanity could be literally out of this world, but when you start understanding what they're doing, they're really just trying to make you better. And it's got its own challenges at the beginning because you got to build trust, right? At first, you know, you start yelling and screaming, and it's not common in Europe. The personalities here are a bit more laid back. So when you're yelling and screaming for someone to keep punching the punching bag or push a sled, it's like, what is this guy doing? You know
where
what I
they
mean?
pick up their bag and leave.
Exactly. At first, it's like, you know, is he talking to me? And a lot of my market at the beginning too was mostly corporate, right? So you're talking
Yeah.
to managers, directors, VPs, partners, and they're not really used to, you know, taking orders, especially like that. And I don't blame them. So it takes a little bit of trust, but after some time, they realize like, this is my way to get you to do more than maybe the last trainer you got. It's to motivate you past any sort of motivation that you've ever had in your life and give you something new, refreshing. And after a while, they just become excited to come to class. They know, okay, Kris is here. He's going to kick our ass. He's going to have his way of doing it, but it keeps them coming for more, you know? And that's pretty much the brand, you know? Like we're doing it like pro athletes.
So now what I want to know is, tell me what a typical day is like with you. So from the time you get up in the morning, what time is that to the time you go to bed at night? Take me through your day.
All right, so it's been growing because obviously when you first start out, you got a lot more spare time, right? So like when I first started out, right, like you're trying to calculate everything. Okay, what's the best way to do this? Do I focus on this? Do I focus on that? Do I focus on doing more corporations, like going to businesses like right now we're in Amazon or Clearstream, like going to these businesses? Do I focus more on the studio, doing personals or group sessions? So at the beginning, it's a lot of organizing, you know, how do I do all this? And now we're at the point where we're hitting some momentum, and the body of work that was done early on in terms of getting recognition, we've pretty much laid down a foundation. So now, we're becoming more of a brand name here. So a lot of that attention is coming to us. So the work is different now. Now it's more like, you wake up, some days it's as early as 5:30 to get here for 6:30, 6:30, set up for your first class at 7. So I set up the stations for my personal, and then you pretty much run them through it. Then from 7 to like 12 right now is like back to back to back to back. So it's like 7 to 8 class, 8 to 9 class, 9 to 10 class, 11 to 12 class, 12:30 to 1:30 class. Then I'll usually get a break from maybe like 1:30 to maybe like 3. And then it's pretty much, from 3 pretty much to 9. It's just grind. So right now,
every day,
like, except Saturday, I take Saturday off, so
yeah,
that's why it's crazy, because people are like, how did this develop so quick? And it's like, really the work ethic that I had in basketball, the same thing that got me out of Canada, going to America, and they're like, yeah, this guy lives in an igloo, to getting Division I, to playing overseas basketball. The work you put into your craft as an athlete is enormous, and a lot of that work is done behind the scenes. My mindset was like, if I'd worked so hard to become an athlete, if I take that same work ethic and I invested in business, I just felt like you're going to move at an incredible speed, because no one works as hard as the athlete, the real professional athlete that's taking the Kobe Bryant approach, where it's like, look, this guy works 8 hours a day at his job. I'm going to find a way to work 8 hours at my job, whether that's working out, whether that's getting in the gym, whether it's practice, going the extra mile, right? And that's the same approach I take with my business, where it's like the same work ethic you have as a professional athlete is the same way you got to approach business. And if you do that, you'll transcend and you'll build something of enormous importance to the nation, and hopefully build it out to a worldwide brand that people know about and they respect.
Now you're doing quite well with your business. Like, what is your vision for the company going forward?
So this is another really good question, and it's really what I'm excited to do. And moving forward is I went to IMG Academy. A lot of people don't know that I went to IMG Academy on scholarship back when I was finishing out my prep year.
Yeah.
And that experience there really changed my whole perspective on training. They actually had us really working out, like lifting weights, schedule, getting up in the morning.
And sorry, for those who, sorry to cut you off. For those who don't know what IMG Academy is, can you just explain that to them?
Yeah, so I mean, basically IMG Academy is known to be pretty much the best training facility in the world. Like, it's world renowned. They even know about it here in Luxembourg. So what we pretty much did there was, at my time, it might have changed a little bit over time, but when I was there, you pretty much train like at your craft, your sport, which might be basketball, baseball, football, whatever the case may be. You pretty much training half the day. So you're doing like 4, 5, 6 hours of your craft, right? And then the other 4, 5, 6 hours you're spending in school, right? So yeah, it's just world renowned. And like 10 years later, I think it was like 10, 12 years since I've been there. Now they've just branched out to a level that's just unimaginable. Like, they're in every sport. Mind you, this is a place that started off with tennis. Right? Tennis was their big thing, and now they pretty much like grown to a point where they cover every sport on a youth level. So like when I was there in high school and stuff like that, but they also deal with professionals, right? So when I was there, you're seeing guys like Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince, Tyronn Lue, like all these guys are coming in. They're where you want to be, right? Champion, right? And they're just coming in and working out. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to join the workouts with them and get a little bit of working and learn a few things. So, IMG, for a guy coming from Toronto, Canada, that no one really thought would make much of anything at the time, to, have that experience was just, I mean, I knew at the time how special that was, because I think I want to say I was the first, if not one of the first Canadians to come through there. And I cherish that moment because I learned so much. And now, like I said, doing what I'm doing now, like, IMG is a very huge influence on what I do here. You know, the things that I learned there and the structure and how they built it out, um, it's really influenced how I do this thing moving forward because I've seen how great investing in the community, investing in the youth, and eventually getting to the point where high level pro athletes are coming out and training with you. I've really seen the impact that could have on a community and the nation. And, I just hope that I'm able to do the same thing here in Luxembourg and have that same sort of impact here and, make those in Toronto proud of the developments coming out of here.
All right, so now you're in Europe and you're doing well with this business and you're grinding hard every single day. I just want to know, like, what keeps you motivated to keep going? Those days that are rough, those days that are hard for you, what keeps you going?
Man, I mean, to be honest with you, it's so deep with me. Like, I mean, there's levels to it, obviously, like my family, you got your parents getting older. I got my sister now doing music. I got my brother, he's now working corporate in marketing. And I'm the oldest of four kids, so I always knew that everything I do would influence how they handle things, and it's the same thing as when I started basketball, I always knew that if I quit, those watching me would quit too, sometime along the road. And when I start something, I just know there's somebody watching, and I think about my family, I think about my friends, like you said, like you're talking about, we call him A plus, Ty, we're talking about Ty. A lot of people, they really looked at me as somebody that was doing something and gave them inspiration. And that was always something that took to heart, like people really, they really boosted me on a level where it's like, man, like Kris is trying to do something. And in the back of my head, you never want to let those people down, because I've never been in the position before where I could really give back, but I never forget. I never forget like the kind words that were said. I never forget the times I needed help and people stepped up and they invested in me as a basketball player, and now I'm at a point now where I don't want people's investment as me as a person, as an athlete, to go to waste, because I know people, they believed in me so much and I want to make those people proud. Like at the end of the day, I want people to say, Kris Douse came from Toronto, Canada, and like he made us proud. Like he really did his thing. Like he always grinded, he kept his nose to the ground and he just stayed focused. And at the end of the day, it's like he's one of us. He's from Canada. Like he came up from here. This is his foundation. That's my motivation, man, is just to always be able to just kind of live up to the blessings that people gave me, not even knowing that they were my fuel,
Has there been any struggles for you along the way?
Life is a struggle, like life is always going to give you hurdles and obstacles, and it doesn't change. I don't care if you're, a corporate juggernaut. I don't care if you're an athlete. I don't care if you're like yourself, a broadcaster. We always hit like walls, especially when you got great ambitions, right? Because nothing ever happens when you want it to happen. That's the thing about pressure. It makes diamonds, but you got to last the course. And there's always hurdles, but like I said, every wall that goes up can easily be broken. You just got to keep chipping at it, right?
If you had a chance to sit down with anybody in life, past, present, who would it be and why?
Man, I mean, I got a few. I got some heroes that are not with us today. Like I was always a big Muhammad Ali fan. For those back in Brampton seeing this, they would know. Like I would always have that kind of I wanted to have that kind of charisma where, Muhammad Ali, he was so empowering. He meant more than himself as a brand, but he meant so much to a community of people during the time when, say like oppression and opportunities weren't there. And he was like the trailblazer that kind of made it possible for athletes today to be able to take the road that they did. But he had to be the guy to hit the brick walls. He had to be the guy to go to jail. He had to go through a lot of difficulties to make the athlete what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to sit down with the present athlete, I would love to speak to someone like LeBron James, not just as an athlete, obviously everyone knows athletically what he's doing is, he's up there with the greats, but I really admire like the business side of things, how he's creating things that are they're gonna keep on going well after his career, and they're impactful to the world. Like that's something I respect so much. Like I look at what he's doing and I say, wow, like LeBron and his team, like that's a team of geniuses. Like if you really look at what he's doing and how he's strategically placing the chess pieces, like him and his team, they're next level. Like they're doing some
100%. Yeah.
People don't realize what's going on. Like they just look at him like LeBron, the basketball player. It's like, nah, this guy is like next level of genius. Or the team he has around him, the pieces, like he's got a few pieces around him that are also major, right? So what they're doing as a team, like I would love to just sit down with him and just talk about like, just to have that influence, like what should I do next? Like how do I become half as impactful as you are and what you're doing on the other side of the ocean, right? Over here in Europe, trying to inspire people, also inspire people back home in Toronto to maybe pick up and just invest in themselves and just get things started, right? So definitely LeBron. I just love the way he strategically puts things together.
Nice. Okay. Now let me ask you this. Now I'm always curious, very curious when I ask this question, because I say this to a lot of my guests, right? So I'm a FedEx driver in the day. Okay. So I drive, sometimes I get up, well, most of the time I get up 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm out of the house, start work 6:45. I get back home, say about 2:30. I leave, I'm a broadcast assistant for the Raptors, so I'm downtown. And then I don't get home until way after the game, at like midnight. And then I'm up at 5 again. I got a wife, I got kids, right? So things get hard, and they are hard. And I hated to admit that before, because in life, sometimes you like to put on a mask, right? You want things to look easy. But I never wanted to admit like, yo, it's hard, man. It's difficult. You're doing a whole bunch of different things. And aside from doing that, I'm running OXP Media, putting out a whole bunch of content. I edit people's podcasts and I do all that kind of stuff. But I never wanted people to know that. I just wanted people to know, okay, people know me online as a broadcast assistant. That's about it. But when you reveal your truth of all the different things you do, just being 100% transparent, I think people have a different respect for you because they really get to see that grind. So my question to you is, what is something about you that you never wanted people to know about you?
You know, it's funny, man, is that when you're young, you hide insecurities because you think they make you weak, but really hiding them is what makes you weak, because it takes so much effort to hide them. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that's a good
like man, like even like this, I mean, we could start from the beginning. I mean, like at the time, like I grew up in a single parent household because my father raised 4 kids at the time. And then we didn't have a whole lot. Like I was always like the guy that had a little bit less than everybody else, and I understood at an early age, my father had to grind, people might see, I can just be honest, like people sometimes would come to my house, right, or come to where we live, and like on the TV, you might see like a Goodwill sticker, you know what I mean? And at the time, I was kind of ashamed of it, we just didn't have it like that. Like we were grinding. That's probably why I'm the way I am now, that was what it was like when my dad had to go through the transition of like 4 kids, at that time by himself. It was hard for like, 5-6 years. And I was a little bit embarrassed, but that was the reason why I worked so hard. I didn't have nothing to lose. I had everything to gain, right? At that particular time in my life. Things did get easier because my mom, she did come back in our lives, and she's with them now. So she definitely has made life a lot easier, especially for my siblings, because I was a bit older. I was in America by the time she came back, but she was able to have a great influence on my siblings. But the grind didn't stop, I mean, when I first went to high school, I went to great story for you. You'll like this one. I went to Laurinburg Institute, right? And no knock on Laurinburg because, you know, at the time it was known to be the best team in America in terms of their basketball team. But what people didn't realize is that we were in the middle of the hood. We were like really like right in the project housing, and the conditions there, you know, were crazy. Like my dad and me, we drove 19 hours, right, from Toronto to North Carolina. And this guy was a soldier. I mean, this guy, one shot there, one shot back. Like, wow. My dad was crazy, you know. Everyone that knows Mr. Douse knows when he gets in the car, we're all getting there, you know. So he drove it. So we get to Laurinburg, right? First thing, you know, in Toronto, you know, even when you're in a bad place in Toronto, for the most part, unless just like really like big apartments, nothing really looks as bad as it really is. You know what I mean? Like compared to the rest of the world, like you could be in some you know, funny neighborhoods, but you won't know it unless you're from there, you know? If you come from like America and you come to Toronto and you go to certain areas, you might not know what's really going on. It looks nice until, you know, you just don't know, right? The minute you pull up to Laurinburg, it's like, okay, I'm in the trap, you know? I'm from Toronto, Canada. It's my first experience going to live in America, you know? The land of opportunity, you know, and which it is. Like I said, I owe a lot to America. America did a lot for me, right? I just got to speak my truth, right? Because it wasn't always easy. Yeah. So my dad dropped me off, and we get to my room, right? We get to my room. They're like, "You're in this room, right?" So we get there, right? We walk in the room. As soon as I step in, all you hear is the floor is flooded, right? Oh, it smells terrible. Like it really, like, right? We find out the sewage pipe on the bottom of the floor, it must have burst or something, right? So I'm looking at my dad, right? And I'm like, yo, man, like, I still want to be there because this is my dream. I don't care how I got to get to Division I or get high major schools. I don't care. If I got to sleep on this floor for a year, I'm doing it. Like, I'm getting this done, right? So I look at him, this guy, this is my father. Right? This is the kind of guy that raised me, right? He said, son, if you want to be the best, you got to play with the best. He's out of there, gone, right? I don't see him for another year, right? That was what it was, you know. My dad was like, but like they say, my dad didn't raise no punk. That's how his mindset is, you know. Like, you want it, go get it. Like, it's yours to get, but it ain't gonna be easy. So that was the first. I could talk about this all day. This is like 10 minutes of the segment if we do this, but that was like one point where it's like, okay, how bad do I want it, you know? That was probably the biggest hurdle in high school. In college, this is where, you know, I started making a few decisions that I wish I would have like had a bit more guidance with, because I went to University of Nebraska. Like, that was my dream, right? To play at a high major school. Yeah. And I got the opportunity. And to be honest with you, as a freshman, it was going well. Like, the coaching staff believed in me, and I needed more development. Like, I had a lot of raw skill, and everyone knew, like, you know, potentially, like, talent-wise, I was on par for the level, but I was still very raw. Like, you know, I was still very raw. I needed to learn a lot of things, and I was impatient. I was very impatient, and I wish I would have stuck out 4 years there, because I think it would have really helped my athletic development. So I ended up leaving, right? And I went to Delaware State, where at the time when I went to Delaware State, I was considered like the biggest, or if not one of the biggest, and not the biggest recruits at the time, because I left prep school as a top 10 recruit, right? So some polls had me under, say, Taj Gibson at number 9, me at number 10. And in this year, the number 1 player in the nation in prep school was Paul Harris, right? I remember this guy was amazing at the time. I was a linebacker playing point guard. Yeah, so this was like my time period where, so I was nationally ranked at the time, and coming in as a freshman at Delaware State, they never had anybody that kind of like was in that prestige, right? So I went there, and it was a tough transition. Me and the coach kind of bumped heads a lot, and I was a hard-headed kid. I could kind of see why, you know, it was a hard transition for me. Like I said, the man I am today is totally different than the boy I was yesterday, right? So that didn't go as planned, you know, because at the time they had high expectations for me. coming in as a freshman, it really was a possibility, at least in my mind, where you could make NBA noise playing in the MEAC coming from the Big 12. It didn't pan out like I wanted to. And I hurt my back one year where I herniated a disc. And, it was just a mess. So then I did my last year NAIA. That was pretty smooth. Long story short, went pretty smooth, got overseas. So I hope I'm not going too, because this can go. You know what I mean? We can go with this.
You know what? I think we're gonna have to do another show where we even dive deeper, and really dive deeper into your story, man.
The grind never stops. As I say, I love the grind, but it never stops.
There's a lot there, man. There's a lot there. But we got about 2 to 3 minutes left. I would say we got 2 minutes left. But before we exit, okay, where can we find you online?
So you can check us out on Instagram at Probody Coaching. You got Facebook at Probody Coach, or you could check me out on LinkedIn under Kristoffer Douse. That's KRISTOFFER Post a lot on there. You can also check out our website at www.probodycoaching.com, and that's pretty much all our social presence there. And you can pretty much find a whole lot of intensity, a lot of stories. I'm very engaging with the community as we try to build and trying to create a lot of excitement over here in Luxembourg.
Perfect, man. Well, listen, Kris Douse, Canada Zone, we really appreciate you for coming on the Mike Roach podcast today, and we're looking forward to hopefully speaking to you again soon so we can dive a bit deeper.
Man, I'd love to, man. Like I said, I appreciate the platform just to kind of share my experiences and my story. And anytime you want me on here, I'm here in a heartbeat. I'm there.
Appreciate that, brother. So thank you so much. We'll talk again soon. All right.
My pleasure.